Omega as a brand has a massive problem, and it's not the Philips auction, or not just that. Let's talk about it. Omega has been in my family for decades. It was one of those times when your dad works in a company for more than 20, 30 years, and then they give them a watch. That's how we ended up having a couple of Omegas. Some of them my dad sold, and he kept the Constellation chronograph and handed that over to my brother. So, in a way, it's extremely saddening to see Omega's state today. They seem completely lost. Omega makes a ton of watches. We just don't know who they're making these watches for. For example, look at Christopher Ward's The 12. Integrated stainless steel sports watch that's 70s Genta design inspired timepiece and offering great value for money. Exhibition case back, Swiss Salida movement. It just checks all the boxes. But did you know that a couple of years ago, Omega released their own version of a very similar looking watch? But nobody talked about it. Omega didn't talk about it, and we didn't know about it. And that's the biggest problem with Omega. They're just releasing all of these watches that nobody seems to know about. And I'm not going to talk about the Seamaster or the Speedmaster. Everybody talks about those. Omega talks about those watches, but there's a whole side of Omega that the brand just doesn't seem to care about. And this is not just me. I mean, this is my personal opinion, of course, but based on observation as a watch enthusiast and as a collector, just do one thing. Go to Omega's website and click on Constellation. You'll have to go all the way down there to see some interesting pieces, like this Constellation. Doesn't that look exactly like Christopher Ward's dial? But this is a few years old. And just look at how gorgeous this is. 38 millimeter case size, stainless steel, exhibition case back, sapphire crystal, caliber 8500 coaxial movement, 60 hours of power reserve. I mean, this is just perfect, right? And the best part is the price is reasonable, much more reasonable than IWC's Ingenieur. I still don't know how to say that. But compared to that, this is a lot of value for money, a lot of watch for the money. I would have loved to talk about this model, but I didn't even know it existed. And that is the problem. That's the problem, that nobody knows unless you do a deep dive and just start digging and scrolling. You're not going to find this. And just by looking at this, you can pick out two problems. The first one is that all of the watches within the Constellation line, the name is Constellation. That's it. So you don't know what to look for unless you type that specific, that exact, very long, very confusing reference number, like this 123103821020003. The second more obvious problem is that there are more than 400 variations of the Constellation, 428 to be exact. And these are all three-handers. There's not even a chronograph here. Tissot's entire catalog is just around 600 watches. But with Omega, just the Constellation line is more than 400 pieces. So who are these watches for? Does the Constellation have such a high demand that we're not aware of? Okay, fine. Maybe they do. Maybe in Asia and in Middle East. Why aren't these marketed? Just imagine if Omega had given the same level of respect, the same level of celebration and highlight and emphasis to this Constellation as much as Christopher Ward. That hype that was built up, that was the reason why everybody was talking about it. It was on everyone's radar. And if Omega is worried that, it's going to take away, the attention from the Speedmaster and the Seamaster, that's not really the case, even with Christopher Ward. all of their other watches are still being sold incredibly well, you know? So I don't know. I don't know what's happening with Omega. I think Omega needs to be more focused. That's all. They're a bit all over the place right now, and it just seems ridiculous. It seems like they want to fail at this point. And the whole thing with Philips auction, I didn't cover it because I didn't even know where to begin. Clearly, Philips is not innocent. I don't know if Omega is. It's all speculations at this point. We don't have any hard evidence to talk about. But one thing for sure is that Philips has done some major shenanigans here. Perez has been working with Philips Auctions. He has been one of their senior advisors for many years. So they were used to listening to his advice on certain, authenticity on certain models and things like that. But then when it came to this watch and he highlighted this, they pretended that, nothing was said. And they even officially announced that nobody came forward when Perez was not just, bringing it forward, but literally calling them and constantly trying to reach them, but then they weren't getting back to him. So it's not so shocking, right, that there's such a scandal and corruption going on with such a big auction house. It just proves this thing that you can't let other people, just spoon feed you things. You have to do your own research, because no matter what they say about their own due diligence, you have to be a bit more careful. Get a second opinion, maybe. So anyway, this was just a quick rant. I've just been back from Saudi Arabia, so yeah, a lot to do, a lot of content to make. And let me know in the comments, what do you think? Am I going crazy, or do you find this issue with Omega as well? Have you noticed something like this? And don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell, and I'll see you in the next one.